Hello, welcome to my art studio and welcome to my new friend. This is a giant vase of lilies, and what I thought I would do in this video is really get a pile of paper, a pile of art materials, and respond to this giant vase of flowers that my husband very kindly bought me yesterday. And the flowers are in this jug, which is one of the ceramic or pottery pieces that I inherited from my parents when they both died. I got a whole collection of interesting vases and pottery and pretty things, and so I'm just going to really spend some time with this object and these flowers and try and explore it on paper and think about what I'm enjoying in this object and the different shapes, and see what happens with a pile of art supplies and a pile of paper. And so my intention is not to create a beautifully finished rendition of this object, but more to use this as a kind of starting point, as a springboard, and just to see what happens. So I'm going to take you with me on my adventure. I've gathered together a few art supplies, some acrylic paint, an oil pastel, some acrylic ink, pencil, and a few tools for sort of scraping, and a pile of paper. What I want to do now is really spend half an hour just doing some really quick studies. I don't want to labour them, I don't want to be too precious, I want a kind of bold and loose energy. Because of that, I've also just limited my colour palettes. Indigo, blue palette, not have to make decisions about colour, not be distracted and seduced by colour, but really just to spend some time with this vase, these flowers, play with materials and see what happens at the end.
I've never been known for my cautious side. You should know that I'm well aware. I don't want anything left untried. Will you come with me, mon cher? So let us just do my love and not stop to think any of this over.
So this is where I've got to. I've let everything dry and I've got these quick studies. And this is when I start to then move into possibly a more reflective mode and mood and think about actually what is it that I am enjoying in these studies. Now they're clearly not finished pieces, but I like to just take a moment to think about actually the things that I'm enjoying. And there are. I like the patterns scraped into the paint. I just used the edge of a nail file to scrape away some of the paint. So I'm enjoying that. I'm liking this corner of the chair that is peeping into some of these studies. I've realised that I have fairly much gone to town with the jug and vase shapes and not spent enough time on the flower and leaf shapes. My next manoeuvre, what is my next manoeuvre? I might cut out some of the jug shapes and use them as collage pieces. I might redraw, spend a little bit more time, a little bit more consideration drawing some of the flowers and some of the leaves. So it's a couple of days later and I have spent the last 2 evenings drawing in my sketchbook, in this giant sketchbook. This is the one that I keep under the sofa in my living room. So if I'm watching television or chatting to my husband or hanging about in the evening, I'm often working in my sketchbook. Oh gosh, I hope you can hear me. There is a storm raging outside. And I think last time I said I wanted to spend more time drawing these flowers and leaves, and so that's what I've done. I've spent some time drawing, so I just thought I'd show you the kind of progression of these drawings and things I'm thinking about and what I've done with the paintings that I started with the acrylic paint. Yeah, I've cut them up. So I just thought I'd show you what I've been up to and how ideas sort of progress and develop and evolve through doing. So I started with these acrylic and oil pastel studies, super quick. I probably did 5 or 6 of them in half an hour. I was really wanting to be bold and exuberant. I have a tendency to often start really neatly. Sometimes I have to really encourage myself to start with a little bit more expression. And I've cut them up. I often like to reconstruct, deconstruct, reconstruct, play with composition by cutting out the pieces that I might like and then creating new compositions. So I've cut out quite a few of the vase shapes and I haven't quite finished exploring, but I find that I often discover things and just, often the holes that I've cut out and putting them on top just allows me to look in a different way. So that's where I started. Then I wanted to do some drawing and I was sort of drawing in front of the television, leaning on my big sketchbook. And these were the 2 drawings that I did next. This is the first one and the second one. They are a bit tight and a bit restrained. There are things that I do like in these drawings. I don't think they were really capturing the essence of those lilies. I was being a bit lazy. I was sort of relying on shapes I know. I wasn't really looking super closely when I was doing the drawings. They didn't feel how I wanted them to feel. I moved on to 2 more drawings after that. And these were, I think, much more successful in terms of composition. I like the shapes of the flowers and the shapes of the leaves and that sort of big boisterous lilies and some of the patterns and shapes that are going on. So that was my next set of drawings. Then I did this drawing here and I was just sort of experimenting with adding in some of these jug shapes and seeing how that worked. So that was night 1 in front of the telly. And then I did some of these black and white drawings. Again, just exploring some fundamental kind of shapes and ideas. So there we are, a little bit about what I've been doing in my sketchbook, how I like to unpack an idea, explore an idea, follow threads. So I think what I'm going to do now is take all this drawings and ideas and explorations and use them as a starting point for a series of more formalised paintings. All the things that I've learned and the things I've thought about through the physical activity and try and translate them into some paintings. That's the plan anyway, let's see what happens.